You know, the world's most advanced microchips, they're made in these super sterile environments called cleanrooms. But the story of who actually makes the special suits for these places is, well, it's surprisingly old school. We're going to dive into how one small, traditional company became this secret weapon for some of the biggest names in tech.
So, here's the big question, right? How does a business that literally started out as a custom tailor shop become absolutely critical to a global giant like TSMC? It seems impossible. But the answer, well, it reveals a pretty brilliant and totally counterintuitive business strategy.
And just look at the contrast here. It really tells the story. On one side, you've got the Wanhua tailor shop. Think humble beginnings, traditional craftsmanship. And on the other, a global semiconductor giant that's all about cutting-edge, high-tech manufacturing. How on earth did one become so vital to the other?
Okay, so the key to this whole transformation, it all comes down to a single, tiny problem. A custom order so small and so specific that, honestly, any other big manufacturer would have just said no way and hung up the phone.
So picture this. You've got an engineer who is less than 140 centimeters tall, and they need a custom-made cleanroom suit. Just one. This wasn't some massive million-dollar contract. It was literally a one-person problem. A single suit.
And this quote right here, it explains everything. For a massive factory, stopping a huge production line for one custom job, it's a logistical nightmare. It's inefficient, it costs them money, and it messes up their whole flow. So of course they say no. It's just too much trouble.
But Zheng Guang? They did the exact opposite. Their general manager, Chen Shu-chen, actually sat down and personally redrew the pattern for that one single suit. Now, this wasn't just some nice gesture. This was a strategic move that basically became the DNA for their entire company.
Yeah, this wasn't just about being the nice guy supplier. It was a very deliberate strategy. See, by taking on all the difficult, small, and super urgent jobs, they were turning themselves into something way more valuable than just another vendor. They basically became their client's insurance policy. Think about it. When a tech giant had some weird, unexpected, emergency need, who were they going to call? Zheng Guang, the one company that would actually solve the problem no matter how small or annoying it was.
So, how did they pull this off and become so irreplaceable? Well, it really boils down to these 4 steps. First, they took on all those troublesome jobs nobody else wanted. Second, they delivered, and they did it fast, and they did it right. That built unshakable trust, which is step 3. And finally, step 4, they became the absolute go-to for any and every emergency.
Now, a business built on unprofitable jobs sounds like a recipe for disaster, doesn't it? You'd think they'd go broke. Wrong. The results of this super niche strategy are, well, they're pretty stunning. Let's just look at the numbers. By 2025, the company was pulling in 250 million new Taiwan dollars in annual revenue. To put that in perspective, that's over $8 million US. I mean, for a company that started as a local tailor shop, that's incredible. And you want to know what's even more impressive? They maintain a stable 10% net profit margin. So this is the proof right here. Their strategy wasn't just about goodwill. It was actually incredibly profitable. And who are their clients? Oh, just the A-listers of the tech world. We're talking TSMC, the world's #1 chipmaker, Micron, a giant in data storage, AUO, a huge display panel manufacturer. These companies are the backbone of the entire global tech industry, and they all rely on this supposedly small supplier. So what's the big takeaway here? What's the lesson from this hidden champion? I think the best way to understand the story of Zheng Guang is actually through a concept from, of all places, ecology. See, in nature, you have something called a keystone species. It's an animal or plant that has this huge, outsized effect on its environment compared to its size. You know, like a sea otter in a kelp forest. If you take the otter out, the whole ecosystem can just fall apart. The same thing can happen in business. And that's exactly what Zheng Guang became. They are a keystone supplier. They might not be the biggest player in the ecosystem, but by solving those critical, niche problems that nobody else would touch, they made themselves absolutely vital. Small in size, but massive in impact. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. What's your one-person problem? What's that small, annoying, supposedly unprofitable problem that everyone else is ignoring? Because as Zheng Guang's incredible story shows us, the answer to that question might just be the secret to making yourself completely indispensable.